How was your night? Was it quite calm, or
No,
did you?
not calm.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. I mean,
No, I mean, we are not in Berlin. We are in the middle of a war.
30 kilometers from the front line, a city under daily fire. This is where we sit down with the defense ministers of Ukraine and Germany, two countries whose partnership is reshaping the architecture of European security. Boris Pistorius, Mykhailo Fedorov. One is rebuilding the continent's military might, the other is reinventing warfare under fire.
yeah. First of all, thanks so much for being here. And my first question will be addressed to Minister Pistorius. We are in Zaporizhzhia, and it's around 30 kilometers from the front line, and it's not the safest place to be. So my question would be, why is this so important for you, especially given the fact that all night there was an air alarm? So why are you here?
I'm here to get a very precise and realistic impression of what's really going on in that war, and especially here at the front line, in order to be better able to talk about that in Germany too and in Europe, because we are talking about the war like it is a war, it's something technical, it's something about conflicts and so on and weapons, but it's more, it's about death, it's about strategy, it's about danger, and it's about defending your own people, and therefore I need that quite concrete impression directly out of life.
Minister Fedorov, since we just mentioned that there was air alarms during this night, and Germany helped us a lot to strengthen our air defense capabilities with Patriots, with IRIS-T. At the same time, we're building our short-range air defense. So if you could share at what stage is our progress, and how do you assess what we achieved so far?
If we talk about the last 3 to 4 months, we've managed to increase the interception rate of Shaheds. We launched the world's first new organizational structure, short-range air defense, within the Air Force. Ukraine invented, developed, and implemented new weapons, such as interceptor drones, which today have a high Shahed interception rate, between 50 and 75%, depending on the attack. Germany is helping us build the short-range air defense system. They're investing in interceptor drones, in cruise missile interception systems, and in anti-ballistic capabilities. This is why the interception rate for Shaheds, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles is growing. And our goal is to do everything possible to intercept 90 to 95% of the missiles and Shaheds, to protect our cities and ensure that citizens can feel safe.
Minister Pistorius, is our Ukraine's approach to short-range air defense is something that Germany will adopt?
Well, it's about cost efficiency, it's about mass production, it's about scaling up production capacities in our industry, and it's about having the right and the most appropriate mixture of all systems. And when we need high-end systems like IRIS-T or something like Patriot or others for different layers, but at the same time we need massively produced material and systems which are cheap, which are efficient, and which are easy to get it operational. I think the mixture is a formula.
Yesterday there was news that Germany is willing to join, and actually there was signed both the agreements about joining the Brave1 platform. Could you explain how it will work, and what does it mean in practice?
Well, Brave1 is a very visible sign of the change of our relationship towards a strategic partnership, coming from a partnership in which our support was playing the main role in our relationship to Ukraine. And now we arrived during the last month already in a new level of that relationship. We are strategic partners. We can learn and benefit from what Ukraine Armed Forces, your ministry, your industry, and at the same time we won't stop supporting you as much as we can and as we did in the years before. But now it's about how can we proceed more faster and more efficiently in terms of production of drones, different kinds of drones, about ammunition, about air defense in all areas. This is what we need to talk about urgently, and Brave1, I think, is a fantastic platform for doing practically so. So therefore we are really very, very satisfied having able to sign it.
For Ukraine, what does it mean to have Germany to join such platform as Brave1?
First of all, it's important to note that Germany is the #1 country in the world helping Ukraine. Over the past few years, Germany has multiplied its funding for our country many times over, providing significant support in the areas of air defense and long-range artillery through the Czech initiative, purchasing Ukrainian drones for Ukraine and building joint production facilities. And our goal isn't just to be a recipient of aid, but to build win-win relationships with our partners, to ensure that the German Ministry of Defense, the German Armed Forces, and the entire German defense system also develop and gain unique experience from the Ukrainian battlefield and transform their own defense system. Germany recently presented a new program, the Responsibility for Europe. That is, Germany wants to build a defense system that will protect all of Europe and become a key player. And our task, as Germany's #1 partner, is to help with innovations, to help them see that the innovation cycle changes every few months, and how we test products on the battlefield.
Regardless, that's already my 7th time being here in Ukraine. My knowledge of the Ukrainian language is not good enough to understand everything he told me. But anything, I agree.
Minister Pistorius, talking about Brave1, one of the branches is this revolution in terms of military procurement. You know, our military can buy drones and components just within a few clicks. And is Germany... It was e-points, yes. Yeah. Is Germany looking towards such system and considering maybe adopting at least some part of it or not? Because I know Germany is very strict bureaucratic country. I mean, that's
I've never heard that.
I can imagine. So how are you looking, what's your opinion basically on that, and are you maybe considering switching to...
My answer could be a counter question. I mean, what did Ukraine do 15 years ago? They didn't procure like that. They do now because they are in the middle of a war. They are defending their country and their freedom. It's a totally different situation, which is not comparable. We are living in peacetime. We have the rule of law, which is different in wartime than in peacetime. So it's about procuring regulations, it's about money, it's about budget questions of the parliament, and so on and so on. So we are in a framework of rules, European and national, and therefore we can't act like you do. But what we do, and what we have already starting to do in the years since I came in office, is to speed up with our procurement procedures, to make it more simple, to make it faster, to make it more standardized, to achieve more material out of the shelf, not the very, very high luxury solution, to get it faster, to refill all what hasn't been done in the decades before.
But if I still may ask your personal opinion, because even I'm living in Ukraine. I'm used to all this innovations and revolutions mode that we have, because that's where I am. What was your first reaction when you heard that, about the e-point system? Just as a person, I'm super curious.
It's very innovative. It's very creative, and this is what I have been highlighting already for at least 2 years. I really admire the creativity and the power of innovation in Ukraine, which they are forced to show in order to fight against the Russian aggressor. But this is not comparable, and we are watching that very interested, because we can learn, and at the same time not everything is to be transformed or to be invented in Germany too. But we have to see what is possible, what we can learn, what we can even improve maybe, or whatever what we can just copy.
Talking about innovations, what are top top 3 innovations that Germany is looking up to in Ukraine? I mean, aside for drones and long-range artillery AI, maybe something else that you could share with us that's not going to be a huge secret.
You mentioned already one of the most important topics like AI, like electronic warfare, counter drones, drones in all aspects and different kinds and variations. But at the same time, for us, it's very important to talk about joint development of, for example, something like a long-range missile, like anti-ballistic missile. So we need more European solutions for what we now are forced to buy elsewhere. And at the same time, we have an ally across the Atlantic, the United States, which we are very aligned to, and we buy American material, but at the same time we need more European sovereignty and more European independency, and this is what it is about when we talk about long-range missiles, anti-ballistic, and artificial intelligence, and so on.
If I may ask, in all this list, I didn't hear the unmanned ground vehicles, which is a huge trend right now. I know it's only like developing.
Well, I'm talking about drones, and this is wrong. I'm talking about unmanned vehicles, unmanned systems, of course, and I mean, of course, those as well as undersea and drones. Yeah.
Okay. Minister Fedorov, talking about actually unmanned ground vehicles, are they at full swing? Are they peaking, or is there more room to become like the priority, the new drone, basically, the game changer on the battlefield?
A little over a year ago, we set a goal to procure the maximum number of ground robots, even before I became defense minister, when I was still Minister of Digital Transformation. We were deeply involved in the war effort, proposing innovations. And more than a year ago, we proposed procuring more than 10,000 ground robotic systems for our battlefield. At the time, not everyone understood where things were heading, but the president supported the idea and said, let's invest in R&D, let's procure everything we can. Our goal was to shift all logistics as much as possible to ground robots, because this is fundamentally about saving the lives of our soldiers. We now see a significant and growing share of logistics, almost all of it, is built on ground platforms, and this is saving our soldiers' lives. Evacuation is built on ground platforms. There are dozens of companies which we supported through Brave1 grants, rapidly growing and developing their products. And we see that this is a new type of drone that has changed the situation on the battlefield. In both March and April of this year, we eliminated more than 35,000 Russian troops, and we are doing everything to save the lives of our soldiers while destroying the enemy. They cannot secure their own logistics or have the same number of ground robotic platforms. The enemy doesn't care as much about building a system to protect their soldiers. We do the exact opposite. That's why this is an important asset, and we continue to invest in it. This year, the President announced a procurement of 50,000 or more ground robotic platforms for our forces. And every month, we see them evolve and deliver new results.
Ukraine is developing or focusing more now on the mid-range drone strikes, middle strikes. Could you explain why is this so important at this moment, and what are where we at with middle strike?
This is a targeted strategy for developing this direction, because it's about eliminating enemy operators, destroying logistics, neutralizing the officer corps, and taking out electronic warfare specialists and other critical personnel. It is about isolating the battlefield, reducing infantry presence on the front line, again, to save the lives of our soldiers, and to increasingly accelerate the pace of destroying the enemy, exhausting them, and striking key targets and infrastructure that allow the enemy to build up their military activity and supply chain. Our task is to scale up production many times over. We've already contracted a record number of mid-range strike systems and continue to invest in this. We've seized the initiative from the Russians in mid-range strikes. That's important to note. Every corps is now developing this direction. We have many specialized units.
We recently have been observing this, first signs of that Russia is weakening. At the same time, they're still fairly strong and they can do a lot of harm, not just to Ukraine, to other countries too. So Minister Pistorius, that would be my question to you. Is, in your opinion, Europe and possibly NATO doing enough to deter Russia? And do you have like a certain strategy or plan if Russia decides to invade one of the NATO country, for example, because you know of such intentions?
Well, the procedure is absolutely clear within NATO. We have Article 4, we have Article 5. We just used it once after 9/11 more than 20 years ago. The main challenge will always be the unity and the determination of all NATO members in the case of. So there is no sign in any direction that it would not be like that. But the main purpose and the main objective for all NATO members in Europe is to finally do what we have started now to do, to really do more in terms of European deterrence and defense within NATO, because we didn't do enough until 2023, 24. Although we agreed already in 2013 about spending 2% of GDP for defense, almost no country in NATO did. That was a mistake, I'm sure about that. But now we speed it up. We speed up. Really, we do it. Germany will reach 3.5% for core defense already in 3 up to 4 years. This is really a huge step within just a few years. So we are doing so, and other countries do the same. And it is that we need to do, because if we want to keep the United States as a reliable member of NATO, and the most important one with regard to their nuclear weapons, as a reliable partner in NATO, we need to become more European as NATO in order to be able to remain transatlantic. And this includes, of course, more engagement in terms of deterrence and defense, more determination, more clarity in all the strategic issues, and we are working very hard on it. And I think we do make very, very big progresses and have been doing now for already 3 years. And Germany is one of the leading nations, as well as in the support of Ukraine. I mean, that matches together. Germany is now the biggest supporter of Ukraine, and at the same time we are the biggest spender for defense in Europe. So this fits together, and it's not about leading nation in Europe, but to be one of the leading members of NATO in Europe to strengthen the European pillar of NATO.
You are, as you said, you have leadership in terms of defense in Europe and supporting Ukraine. At the same time, you're the most popular politician in Germany. How? Because Germany is like historically trying to stay aside, and it's just such a sensitive question in order to militarily help others like Ukraine, and yet you managed to do both. And how did you manage to, convince people in the necessity of supporting Ukraine? How did you do it?
In the first place, I'm very glad and proud of my country and the people in Germany, for they are so sensible in questions of war and military because of our history. So this is necessary not to forget about that. But at the same time, we have a responsibility for the people who live now and the following generations when it comes to security and when it comes to the threats being posed by Russia. So it's about clarity, it's about a clear speech to really explain what's going on, not to be alarmistic, not to make anybody frightened or being afraid. It's just to make clear there is a threat we haven't been used to for at least 25, 30 years, and now it's back again. So we have to face it, otherwise we won't be able to accept and to fulfill the challenge, the mission. And therefore it's about, I think, clarity. And I don't know why I'm so popular. I'm just doing my job. I like my job. It's not fun, but I like it because it's important, and I really meet tremendous, wonderful people all over the world, in Ukraine, in other countries in Europe, in the United States, in the Indo-Pacific. I learn a lot, and I try to give what I have been learning in my life to that job and to convince people of what we are doing and what we need to do.
Minister Fedorov, since there is this, ray of hope that Russia might, collapse or at least get weak soon, is it difficult for you maybe to still be convincing other leaders or societies that the war is still going and we cannot be relaxed, we cannot think that it's gonna end soon?
This is truly an important challenge because this is already the 5th year of full-scale war. Many countries are helping us, but governments change, and the level of support can vary depending on the country. In some places, support is growing. In others, it is not. But recently, we have changed our communication strategy with our partners. We're trying to show what is actually happening in Ukraine. This meeting with the minister, representing our leading supporting nation, is a perfect example. We showed him how we are reinventing the doctrine of war, introducing new approaches, and how German aid is directly impacting the battlefield. We just observed a combat operation where our units successfully eliminated the enemy. Engaging partners and building win-win relationships, where they understand how they will transform their own defense systems, thanks to the experience gained in Ukraine. I believe that is the only thing that can help us continue receiving support from them. We must deliver real value to our partners. We presented our key priorities a few months ago, and since then, we've already had results. The President communicates a lot with the governments of countries helping us, with prime ministers and presidents. He maintains a constant schedule of speeches and international meetings. So all of us, as Team Ukraine, make an effort to show why it's important to support us. We must stop Russia in Ukraine. We must do everything so that this axis of evil is defeated. Defeated in Ukraine, defeated in Iran, and then democracy will prevail across the world, and then the world will be safe. But for that, we must be strong, and our partners must be strong. So this isn't just a question of maintaining resources. This is a question of how to make our partners stronger, together with us.
Minister Pistorius, I just learned that you were watching Ukrainian units assaulting our enemy, Russians. How was that experience for you? This is something that is very common nowadays?
No, of course it's not. It's not for Germans, it's not for all the other Europeans, but it's the daily life of Ukraine. So I was not fond of what I've seen, of course not, because it's about killing people, but I see what's going on and I wanted to make that experience at least here. So thank you for showing me that. But we all wish that would not be necessary. But this is war, and every country, every state, every nation, every people has a right to defend itself, and this is what's going on here.
That was my following question. So in this world when wars are sadly becoming more and more, they just happen more often, what do on a bigger scale, does humanity need to do to deter this, to reverse this sad and tragic tendency? I would like to hear both of your opinions.
I'm convinced, I'm now 66 years old, and I'm convinced there's always a way back. There's always a possibility to turn around if the point has come. It's not yet come, as we all see now, and everything Putin is talking about. Okay, we know what we need to think about, and we have to think about that. But maybe and hopefully there will be soon a day in which we are a ceasefire, a peace in Ukraine, a lasting, a just peace, and a secure peace. And then we need to come back to, at least to try that, to come back to a world in which peoples and nations can live in peace beside each other, not being necessarily friends or even close friends or allies, but living peacefully each to each other. But we didn't reach yet that point. So up to then, we need to strengthen our capabilities to make clear that we are able and determined to deter and defend. And this is what it is about, unfortunately, at the moment. And I really hope that my grandchildren will grow up now. They are not yet 10 years old. They will grow up in a future without war, without weapons, and without killing people.
Of course, for all of us Ukrainians, it's important that the war in our country ends on just terms. Terms that are fair for Ukraine. That Russia is held accountable for what it has done in Ukraine. And we can only speak of a lasting peace, or the future of our world, if the war in Ukraine ends justly and this axis of evil is defeated. I like how Timothy Snyder, a great friend of Ukraine, speaks about this, that the fate of the world is being decided in Ukraine, not for the first time on our land. It's important to stop the enemy, to prevent them from advancing and seizing more countries in Europe. It's crucial that we strengthen our partners and build an alliance that serves as a reliable safeguard against future wars, one that will allow us to preserve peace for our children for many years to come. The future is being decided in Ukraine today, and we need to keep our partners by our side to deliver the final blow to Russia.
Thank you, ministers. Sadly, it's about time
Yes,
for me to let you go. I'm a bit sad about
So
that.
for us.
Right. And once again, thank you
very
so
much.
much
It was a
for
pleasure.
this and
Yeah.
for the time you're taking and for what both of you are doing.